Hi, welcome to Leap Taken. This is Mika. Here at Leap Taken, I talk about all things witchy, craft related, law of attraction, manifesting, esoteric, and everything else in between. So, today I want to talk about getting others to take your spirituality seriously. Um, I'm just going to start with saying how easy it is to say you don't care. And I'm looking down at my notes, by the way. It's easy to say you don't care, but you really do. I know a lot of people, I've probably even said that, oh, I don't care if people take me seriously. I don't care. People, yes, but people, it depends who the people are, right? If it's someone you care about, if it's even someone somewhat related to you, you know, I mean, you don't want to feel disrespected, right? So on some level, you do kind of care. Um, there's also the reality of when you are living your life the way a lot of us do, and you're aware of what is more than what you can see with the human eye, right? When you understand there's more than what you can feel, or there's like just basically other things out there, and you're having life changing experiences, you want to tell somebody. In the same way that anything exciting happens in your life, you're going to want to tell people, right? So it kind of sucks for some of us who are in that space and you want to share your experiences, these life altering moments, things that, like, when you repeat them out loud, it sounds almost unbelievable to you. So you really need a safe place, a safe haven to be able to have these discussions without people, judging you or thinking you're crazy or thinking, or worse, making it up. I don't know what's worse. Someone thinking I'm just off my rocker crazy, or them thinking I'm just lying, which is, I don't know, I think the lying thing bothers me more. But the point is, you're going to want to talk to people. Um, yeah, that's, yeah. Um, Specifically, like a couple different things, like over the years of me practicing witchcraft, things have happened. And there are certain people that I've tried to talk to who kind of gave me just that look of, I know you believe this is real. I know you believe this is true. And because I like and care about you, I'll be nice. But like, they just had the look on their face like, you believe it and that's fine. And I mean, what are you gonna do? Fight somebody? Like, I can't get mad at you for not believing what I believe. But I just sometimes, in those moments, me personally, it just, if you don't catch your facial expressions and, just the tone of your voice, it sounds condescending. And, I'm an adult. And so you're talking to another adult. Not that it's okay to be condescending to children, but as an adult, I feel like, if you take up space in my life and I allow you to take up space in my life, respect is just like the bare minimum. And being condescending to someone, whenever, I mean, we all have moments, right? But every time you talk to somebody and they kind of have that tone like, I know you believe that, they kind of have that okay, expression on their face, like, I don't like that. And I've experienced it several times with people in my life who, um, you give like examples of things that are just sound unbelievable, but technically they witnessed them or they've seen the before and after, and they still don't want to believe it. Like, that's infuriating sometimes, especially, again, people in the outside world, maybe you don't care, but you care a little bit more about the people that are kind of in your circle or even on the peripheral of the circle, right? um, yeah, so I mean, I'm just thinking about one example in particular. This is really kind of stung a little bit. Like, I was having a for real paranormal experience. Like, it was definitely, I took pictures of the results. I was in the middle of it, and I told one particular person, and it was like they were aware that something was going on, but it was like they just didn't, like, I mean, they almost kind of mocked me a little bit. So I'll never forget that, and it was so many years ago, but I'll never forget that because it's like, you don't want people like that around you. And it's so hard because if the people around you are like main staples, like your parents or, your sibling or spouse, or a significant other or children, depending, it really it's tough because you don't want to like separate yourself from people, but I'll get to that. But anyway, moving on. So it was very important after a while that I start seeking open-minded people to be around to bounce these ideas off of how to solve, certain magical problems or spiritual issues. How do I handle that? Also, how do I keep this kind of stuff from happening again? And just, having conversations with people who didn't, give you the face like, okay, or do that okay type reaction every time you say something. Um, so, yeah. Now, on that note, there might be people who are open minded already in your circle. I would learn that as well. I didn't necessarily give everybody the benefit of the doubt, and you have to be very careful with that. And don't assume because someone openly claims Christianity, perhaps, that they're not open minded enough to understand and relate on some level to your spirituality, especially if it's like your budding spirituality, or if you've been practicing for many years, but you've always just been a closeted witch. You just never was out of the broom closet with anybody somewhat close to you. You might use your witchy senses with this and kind of put your ego aside a little bit and like really like take a step back, and you can put fillers out. We're probably all accustomed to that. You put fillers out and see just how they respond to certain situations, and if they're very negative about it, then obviously not, but just see. It starts with like talk about things like dreams, and say, um, I've always been told, that if you dream about this, it means that, and see how people respond to like simple, basic stuff. Bring up what's, superstitious, supposed stuff, and see how they respond to that as well. I would say this sometimes other people are really just curious about a lot of this. So you start talking about like certain dreams, you start talking about what they say old wives' tales, and people like kind of perk up, and you wouldn't expect them to do that, but they do. So I don't know, just watch for that. Um, the other thing is, I just wanted to say is be okay with people in your circle not understanding. So as long as they're respectful, of course, but it's okay if they just don't get you, your spirituality, how you live your life. It's perfectly fine. You can still love on them. They can still love you, care about you. They just don't get it. And they never will. There are going to be people in your life who just, they never get it. They never get why you do the things you do, what you're getting out of it. In their mind, it's all made up anyway. Um, don't push your experiences on anybody. Whatever newfound knowledge that you find out, every new experience that is just like awesome and crazy, and you feel like you're in some sort of movie and like these main character events are happening in your life, and everybody else are supporting characters or extras, and those people feel like extra because they're just oblivious to like this cosmic astrological life altering shifts that are occurring, and they're not even noticing. They're just like walking around and you're like, you don't see what's happening. um, and a lot of us are actually living that out right now. um, have patience with those people, and whatever you do not keep pushing all this information on them, especially if they're not asking. Don't talk about retrogrades. Don't talk about um, the lunar cycles. Don't talk about major astrological events, Sabbaths that are celebrating. Don't refer to those or anything like that for somebody who literally just does not have the mental capacity um, to take that information and be respectful back. Like, don't do it. You're not going to convince them anything. You're not going to force them to believe. And more importantly, they're not going to take you any more seriously if you continue to just keep speaking about these things. Now, I do have a caveat to this, because that's a rookie mistake, by the way. By the way, that happens in all religions. You ever meet somebody who was newly saved? They can't wait to save you too. Yeah, they get real excited about it, and they will change. I've seen people do that on different spiritual paths. They'll like change their entire lives throw out like movies and cancel, and this, well, back in the day, like DVDs and stuff like that, that were secular, CDs that were secular, and they stopped playing any secular music in the house. Certain clothing got thrown out. Relationships with people cut because of their spirituality. And don't think it doesn't happen under the pagan umbrella as well. People kind of get this idea, well, they don't understand me. So, I just had to cut ties with them. And you can cope. First of all, we're all different people. There are people, okay, let's just be clear about this. There are people who are on the other side of this globe who technically are falling under the pagan umbrella, but they don't practice anything remotely what you do. And you wouldn't assume to, or you wouldn't immediately say, well, I can't be friends with them, or I can't deal with them because they're just, so different from me. So you don't want to do that. You don't have that kind of approach. Most pagans, to me, do a better job at practicing religious tolerance than Christians and Muslims, in my opinion. We tend to be able to sort of dance around topics better, kind of keep the peace, being respectful. We know how to observe in their space without being offensive because we're not actually partaking in it, but we're just there in their space if they're doing some sort of holy ritual or something like that, or prayer. Like, a lot of us know how to behave, where when in reverse, to me, it's more the rule is that a lot of them just don't want to understand how to take that same approach when it's our ritual or, our whatever holy sacred thing we're doing. However, again, have patience with people because they are the predominant religion. So we kind of, us people under the pagan umbrella, kind of have to dance to their overall tune because, it's, for the most part, it's the predominant thing. So people accept that more. Especially for me within the Black community, there's been a shift over the years, which I'm very grateful for, to be more open-minded about spirituality. I'm still seeing too many Black women, especially on social media platforms, who are really bothered by the term witch. Kind of offends and annoys me a little bit. And it's more the younger ones, a couple older ones, but I still see the younger ones where, but that gets in a breakdown about like the ATRs and how it's like, I'm not a witch, and they get really offended by that because to them, it's more of a culture race thing. And like witches basically are white. And I know I'm oversimplifying this. There's a lot more nuance to this conversation, but just in general, that's kind of what it's about. I will just say this, along with don't pushing it on. And I'm just, once I, kind of say what the worst of it, I'm trying to like balance it out with another approach to take. So obviously make new friends. You're going to have to make new friends the further you grow in your spirituality. I thought for many years I could get away without doing this. And it's lonely. Sometimes being a solitary witch, it can be very lonely. And I wouldn't wish, unless you really want to be for the most time, I'm fine by myself. I'm still a solitary witch because I don't, when I do coven work, my coven is awesome because it's set up so that we are not following one specific path. It's more of like just a sisterhood, just a meeting of the mind, so to speak. What do you call those churches? Those kind of churches you go to where it's something universalist or something, universal church or something like that. It almost feels like a universalist or whatever you call it, coven, because maybe their path is more hoodoo, maybe your path is more Wiccan. Nobody's Wiccan, but I'm just saying. Maybe your path is some other path or something like that, druid or something. The point is we can all come together, and it's a unique space because we can perform rituals without anyone feeling like they're having to follow something they normally wouldn't, or feeling left out. So it's a really cool space. But anyway, find friends like that. It takes time, and you have to put yourself out there, which is my next point. This honestly might not be possible to do in person, and that's just a reality. Remember, the predominant religions, they're predominant for a reason. In numbers is just more people. So you probably just won't have access to witches where you live. You just won't. And even people who might dibble dabble into the law of attraction, if they're not saying they're a witch and they're not really open to that and accepting of that, then that, they're on their own journey, and they might not ever get off that one space of kind of just stuck in that space, and that's cool. That's their life. But don't try to make that your friend. If they're not there, if they're not comfortable, if you call yourself a witch, you need to be around other people who feel very comfortable with that word. You know what I mean? It's important. Trust me. I've tried being with people who are just woo woo. It's not the same. It fills a temporary space, but it's not the same. It's not. So what I would suggest is virtual friends. And that's basically how I did my coven. It's virtual. I mean, we have so many different platforms that you can host. If you're really, not sure how to do it, start something up yourself. Start a group and say, hey, you know, um, basically I want some friends, and you can call it a coven. It doesn't have to be that serious, but it's like a place where we all virtually kind of hook up and meet up and just talk about different stuff. And then you can make it more uniformed later, depending on how many people are in there. Because sometimes, as the person who started it, you'll have to, rein some people in. Doesn't matter the path you follow. There are people who are just a little bit more. They test boundaries. We'll just say that, right? So you got to give them boundaries. um, and then finally, just know that, and it pains me to say this, this is a topic that's really sensitive. It seems pretty straightforward, but it really is sensitive. Because again, there's the outside people, there's the people in the peripheral of your overall circle of friends and family, and then there's the inside people. And depending on how close you get in a circle, it can hurt more when they don't take you seriously. More importantly, don't take your spirituality seriously. I'm not asking you to do all the things I do, but respect that I do them. You know what I mean? And respect that it's real to me. You don't need to speak to me condescendingly. Don't roll your eyes every time I talk about, hey, I'm going to do a ritual. Or, if you ask me what I'm doing, I was like, oh, on, Sunday night, I'm going to be doing a ritual. For the new moon. Again, this is probably a dialogue or conversation for my inner circle. As I get on the people in the peripheral, I may not ever say anything. I might just say I have plans. Outside of that, so outside of the people in the peripheral are going to be, let's say, not quite business, like business associates. Your doctor who you've been going to for years and you have a great rapport with them. They're not on a peripheral, they're on an outer circle. Yes, they know you, but at the same time, they don't know your day to day, every day like that. So you probably wouldn't even talk about that part of your life ever with them unless there was a reason it came up. You had an allergic reaction to something, and you still wouldn't even frame it that way. Let's say you tried a new oil that was blessed and, from a ritual you performed and you broke out into hives or rash from it, and you go to this doctor to get treated. You don't necessarily have to talk about the ritual and all that, the magic. You just would say, hey, I tried this new oil out. Where people in the peripheral, you might allude to, yeah, a friend of mine who's an herbalist made this item, and we were out having a gathering in a full moon or something, and it was this wonderful, it smelled so good, and I tried it on my skin. You might have that dialogue. Where somebody in inner circle, you would give a lot more details. Yeah, I was doing my new moon ritual, and we made these oils, and it worked me out. So I think it's something, you would have a little bit more detail about that, a little bit more intimate, and give actually like names, what the event was, and all that sort of stuff. So with that being said, it sucks when they don't believe you. It really does. I'm looking down at my notes because I kind of stayed on that point when I was writing all this out, because to me that was my biggest issue. So I mean, don't push your beliefs on them, obviously. And at the end of the day, as someone who's walking this path currently, you just have to be okay with people just not understanding. You just have to be okay with them never taking anything you do seriously. And If it gets to the point where it's a respect thing, and be very clear, them not believing is not being disrespectful. That the way they let you know they don't believe it is that could be disrespectful. Again, so in the same way that I tolerate the most of the people that I know who follow in some capacity Christianity, I'm very tolerant. So when they say things like praise God, or if they say grace in front of me, or say, yeah, oh, I'm going to pray, pray about it or something like that, or they're not even talking directly at me, they're just speaking expressive, and that's just part of their life and how their vernacular, how they speak. I don't get offended by that. On the flip side, because they do speak that way, I don't do that back to them, because typically people who do that usually are not willing for you to be able to speak the same way. Now, it does depend, and I'm speaking from my own personal experience. Again, remember, I was very clear about the circle. If we're in an inner circle, even with some of those people, again, and now that gets broken down into categories. Like if it's like your mother-in-law, it's not worth it. If she's a devout Christian, she goes to church all the time, she goes to prayer meetings, she does all this sort of stuff, it is not worth it going back and forth. Let's just be honest, it's not. Because why, when I say back and forth, not discussing the validity of what you believe, but like even discussing it at all. Why are you talking about it? Why bring it up? It's now, if she knows, or father-in-law for that matter, if they know your path, they're familiar, and they're saying disparaging things every time they talk to you, that's disrespectful. Now, once we're in a disrespectful realm, well, there's a couple ways to handle that. Let's just be honest. Either you let them say it just to keep peace. Some people do that. They don't like confrontation. Or you speak to your partner and maybe they're the bulldog and they get them, so to speak, and shut them up. And hopefully you have the kind of partner, if you're in that kind of situation, that stands up for you. And if you don't, I'm going to say something that nobody wants to say. You might need to reevaluate your whole situation. You have to reevaluate your whole situation. In the same way, people take it seriously when someone is a devout, whatever the predominant religion is. If they're devout and they're following the path and their partner, spouse, or whatever is totally not about that life at all, it would be okay. It would be considered acceptable, even, especially if it's a man who's the devout one, to separate and end that relationship because that person wouldn't convert. Actually, more on that topic, let's not even get into like Jews being a Jew or anything like the Jewish faith. People with that, it's like, well, you know, you have to be Jewish for me to marry you. Like, it's tradition in my family and it's very important. So people convert. And that's just so okay for a lot of people. Like, even if you don't agree with it, like, you understand it. It doesn't keep you up at night that people are converting their religious faith because they want to marry someone. Usually, again, it's usually most times, from my experience, is always the woman doing the converting. But anyway, why is it so bizarre that you would want to end relationships or marriages because not even, you didn't even ask them to convert, you just needed them to respect your path, and they just wouldn't do it because that's just tapping into anything else that's a part of your life that they're not willing to respect, or they allow others to disrespect you and they don't stand up for you. I got a problem with people who don't stand up for people and you say we're together, and that goes for non-romantic relationships as well. So for me, that's a sensitive spot. I don't like people who so-called like ride the fence because, you know, this person's important to them and that person's important to them. So they play, well, they do that Trump thing. Well, they're good people. There's good people on both sides type thing. And it's like, you better defend me because you know this person is wrong. And the answer can't always be, I know I'll talk to them, and they never talk to them. I've seen that. I've experienced that type of stuff too. Don't do that. Don't do that. Now you're patronizing me, you know? But be open to opportunities to link up with like-minded people. That's going to be your saving grace. And to be perfectly honest, the more you do that, And the more you, because that will give you the opportunity to sort of like flex your magical abilities a little bit more, feel a little bit more confident. Even if you've been practicing a while, because I've been practicing for many, many years now. It's been over 10 years. And because of my experience, of my routine experience dealing with other witches and with my coven, um, I think we've all benefited just on an individual basis as well, on our magic just being better because we're living our magic more consistently. I've always talked about that, but like because we've made this sort of agreement to always do certain rituals and certain things, like we committed to it. So even if you kind of feel a little tired, you get your energy together and you come. And a lot of times we'll just admit, like, I kind of was like gonna back out of it, but I kind of wanted to do it, and we'll be open about it. And you need to find people you could just vibe with like that. But like, I didn't really feel it. Probably if I was by myself, I wouldn't have even did anything tonight. But in a way, we always feel good that we did it. And you want to find some people, and if it's just person, by the way, you might not find people. It might be a person. That's perfectly fine too. Um, Eventually, right now, the coven that I started, which I had opened up initially months ago, earlier this year, I really liked it. At the time, I didn't understand how I wanted it to go exactly. I had an idea, but not exactly. But it's surpassed what I wanted it to go. So I've been thinking lately about setting up a separate space um, for other like-minded people that's a little bit more public as well, and still we can get together and just have conversations, and then more organized conversations where it would be a thing, and it's a loosey-goosey thing, so it's like you're not making any sort of commitment. There wouldn't be any bylaws, more like a forum style. But I could set it up where it's like a Zoom call style, if you follow me, so we can maybe even see each other and just have dialogue, spend like an hour or so, maybe twice a month or something like that, just coming together, and you can ask questions. It's a great place for newbies. It wouldn't just be me answering questions, other people could be sharing ideas. And I'm kind of kicking this around, so let me know in the comments if this is interesting to you guys, because and it's just like something I've recently been thinking about, and it's just like just a safe space. And if anybody, by the way, in said safe space, begin to make other people feel uncomfortable, if I felt like somebody just kept pushing one type of agenda, because even in a witchcraft world, we know there are people like that, right? You know, they always want to talk about, uh, I don't know, I'm trying to just pick something. We'll just say Wicca, because we're going to pick on Wicca, right? We'll just say they're always pushing the threefold law. Ah, that's a good one, because that actually happens. So they're always pushing the threefold law, and you're like, all right, you said that the last time we talked. We get it. Like, that's your deal. Like, 5 of us here could care less. But okay, cool. We're respecting, because we know how to tolerate. Remember, we're more tolerant as pagans. So, yeah, I'm thinking in a situation like that, like I pull you to the side, say, hey, we got it. That's your deal. But like, you don't have to keep driving it home. Like, it's making other people uncomfortable, especially if it's making me uncomfortable. Like, I might have to say something. In the same way, if you were constantly referring to the Bible in a mostly witchcraft space, which I know witches are into that, and that's cool. But if you were constantly referring to scripture, I'd pull you to the side and say, hey, maybe this is not the place for you. Or if it is, maybe calm that down a little bit, because again, you're scaring some of us off. But anyway, just some ideas I'm kicking around. You guys let me know again in the comments how that sounds to you. But I'll just end it here. Hopefully this is helpful, just making you kind of think about this sort of stuff, because it doesn't matter if you started practicing last month or 20 moons ago. The point is, we got to live this life, and everybody unfortunately is not on the same path or even remotely similar paths, but they're important to you. These people are in your lives, so I hope this helps you kind of just reconcile that. Even if nothing comes from your personal experience, at least your mindset is different. Like, you know what? Maybe I was talking too much about, the moon, the full moon, and maybe I kind of freaked some of my relatives out the last get together. So maybe I'll kind of pull back on that conversation because I looked around, everybody was quiet, and I started getting offended and I started getting mad because I felt like they were not being supportive. And instead, where it's like, look, they love you, they care about you, but they don't want to hear it. And you got to respect that too. Huh? All right. So thanks for watching. This is Mika. Leave taken. Please like, subscribe, and share. And as always, thanks again for watching. Bye bye.